Hi, my name's Anthony. I wanted to talk about the possibility of Barcelona moving from their traditional 4-3-3 to a 3-5-2 with three center backs and what that looks like. And the reason why I think this may be something that Quique Setién is thinking about doing. You see, Quique Setién was appointed the head coach about 2 weeks ago. Immediately when he came in, he played against Ibiza. He had three center backs and moved into that formation. They were able to squeak by 2-1 on a third-tier team. Not great. Then they move on to the next game against Valencia, where they lost 2-0. Then again, Barcelona and Quique Setién did send out three center backs, and in that formation where they had the full squad, it was Umtiti left central back, Quique in the middle, and Sergio Roberto on the right. They would then go on to play against Leganés in the Copa del Rey. And in that case, they went back to a 4-3-3, right? So that said to a lot of the fans that they were going to move back to a 4-3-3 because that's what the team's comfortable. In my opinion, I think he understands it's very complicated to move a team from 4 defenders to 3 without giving them time to get to know the coach as well as get to know the system. It was clear they didn't know what to be. Now, let's talk about what 3-5-2 looks like, right? So you have 3 central defenders. The back line, the idea is for the back line to have an extra man, right? A free man that can then create opportunities as well as mark everyone. Because for the most part, teams are going to either play a 4-4-2. In some instances, they will play a 4-3-3. You will have to adjust the squad according to who's up top, but the idea is to have an extra man in the midfield. Now, having traditionally, you would want to convert 2 defensive center mids to be a center back, right? You would traditionally want to put someone that's good on the ball. You need someone with speed. You can be very, very handicapped with 3 central backs, which is probably why Barcelona was okay with transitioning out their young central back and transferring him. See, Barcelona has 3 great central backs: Umtiti, Lenglet, and Piqué. But those are 3 strong central backs for a 4-defender defense, where tall, speed, and they can be a little, or they're tall and they can be a little bit slower, right? So you would traditionally have a slower center back in the middle. It's okay as long as he's good at aerial attacks and he's very comfortable with, navigating the game. But on the outsides of them, you're going to need someone with speed. That's why they traditionally convert central midfielders that are comfortable moving up and down, and they're a little bit faster, right? So having 3 central midfielders in the middle as well as wingbacks on the outside, it relieves most of those wingbacks' defensive responsibilities. And in the case where they played against Valencia, they had Jordi Alba, which would have been either, you think of it as the left midfielder or the left wingback, and they had Ansu Fati on the right side. This could be another problem area for Barcelona, as Ansu Fati is only 17 years old. He's just learning how to play in the La Liga speed, as well as he's really been known as a winger or an attacking force. Now, a wingback position or the right mid that is covering that wingback position in a 3-5-2, they're not necessarily responsible for getting back on all defense, but they will be much more responsible with transitioning the ball from the defense up to the front and finding themselves wide and comfortable. So, true wingbacks are really just deep-seated attackers. So those outside presence on the 5 of the 3-5-2, it means you have to be very sound defensive midfielders and speedy center backs on the outside. So another question is, who would they use, right? Can Ansu Fati be a wingback, or are they just waiting for? Are they just going to go ahead and wait for Dembele to come back and to work that other side? Seems how he can use both feet when he's not hurt. Okay, so the idea now, this formation does stretch the park, and it looks to compact the inside for defense all throughout the middle. But say Jordi Alba or Ansu Fati on the outside, playing typically as like a wing back, they have got to be wide, they have got to get the ball, and they've got to stretch the field, right? Let's talk about this again. So for this to work, the outside center backs, like I said, they need to be agile and they must be mobile, right? So who would you use? You would think we have three great center backs, Langley on one side, Umtiti on the other, and Piqué in the middle. That's not going to work, right? And you can see that because in the very first game they played, they had, Roberto on one side, or they've traditioned Roberto and then Junior Firpo, because these are technically outside fullbacks, but they're much more mobile, right? And the theory is the why he played Sergio Roberto. He's a standard. He is a midfielder that has been transitioned to a defender. That may be what you're looking for. The only problem with Sergio Roberto is he's never been great at understanding where to be. He's never been great at field positioning and blocking off angles in the defense, right? That's always been one of his weak spots. So to put him as one of the three center backs could leave your team very, very suspect. Right? So it's also hard to decide in this formation of the three center backs. It is hard to decide who defends which man. We saw that against Valencia. There was a crossover. Umtiti was afraid to go out. Jordi Alba, who was playing further up, sucked into the middle. Basically, nobody really marked that number 9. He got an open shot, right? We saw that. We also saw another goal where they were crossing the ball from the right side. You had Sergio Roberto still racing back to catch up to the play and running towards the wrong man, leaving open one of the offensive players for Valencia to have a wide open shot. So for this formation to work, the players are going to need a lot more practice in 1 or 2 weeks. You've got a defense that has not been very cognizant of their spacing. They've not necessarily been as dedicated to their defensive responsibilities. So this would take a big change, for this team. Also, you're going to have to figure out if you send up your central backs like a Langley or a Piqué up to take over from a corner kick, you've got to have a plan for which people to draw back, and not only have them draw back in the absence of the central defenders, but you also need to let them know if the ball transitions on a breakaway, whose responsibility is what, right? You can't just say, okay, go back there and cover this space. No. You have to have a very strict back line with 3 central backs, and they have to know who to watch, who to transition over, and who to stay put. As well as, you're going to need a little bit of size in the back for those, right? So I'm assuming they maybe leave Busquets back there, but he's still fairly slow, so you would need to send him back on corner kick responsibilities with a little more speed. So the biggest worry for like a 3-5-2 is that when one of the defenders is dragged in field and he gets lost, the numbers in the back are only successful when this is a rigid defensiveness. Responsibilities, stick to it, no swaying away from your responsibilities. Those 3 central backs have got to be comfortable with only playing defense unless otherwise told. Now, when the line is destroyed, the outside 2 will squeeze in, right? So for some reason that the middle center back gets out of position, they squeeze in to compensate. Well, this leaves massive holes, and there are no fullbacks to cover it up. You have to assume in a 3-5-2 as the 3 central backs, you are solely responsible for stopping goals, stopping build-up play, and ending all those opportunities against your keeper. That is what it is. So you also have to watch out for false 9s, right? Because at some point in the 3 central backs, you're man marking. If a false 9 sucks back into the midfield, you can't lose him, because that is your responsibility when he comes back. So I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that Quique Setién really wants to do a 3-5-2, open up the midfield, open up some space, and have numbers in the attack. I believe he thinks he has good enough players to where one extra man up there will dominate teams. And it's possible that that is a possibility. The question is, do you have the right players for this? Who do you put back? And that's what I want to ask you guys. Who would you put back as these 3 central backs? PK is obviously the anchor, which doesn't mean that he can't be helped out by either a Lenglet or Umtiti on one side. But remember, you need some agile, fast defenders. I'm anticipating. He's hoping that Sergio Roberto was going to be good at that. He did pull him out and put a Semedo in at one point just to see. But theoretically, a central mid with good, strong defensive, mindset could do a good job. But you also need a little bit more speed. Lenglet and Umtiti are fairly similar in the speed category, both much faster than PK. So what would he do? And will he do it? I'm actually interested to see what everybody's thoughts are. If I were to set up a 3 central back defense, a 3-5-2, not necessarily that it is my favorite formation, but if for it to work good, you'd have PK in the back. You'd need to suck somebody back with very smart defensive responsibilities, possibly a Umtiti or Lenglet on one side, Junior Firpo on the other, or change some central midfield responsibilities. Who would be really good at it would be someone like Vidal. They're not gonna let him ease up on the responsibilities up top. The only other thing you really need to think about is who are your core central midfielders that you're going to keep in there. They have to be sound defenders, which is literally why Ricky Puig, when he was in that 3-5-2 situation, he's very light on the defense. He had a lot of responsibilities in the middle. It's no longer a free-forming attack, right? Because your offensive players get to stay up there and live in the advantage area. Your central midfielders have got to be cognizant of their defensive responsibilities. That's why I believe the last game he was trying to feel out that central midfield. I'm thinking you're looking at a Busquets right above the back three. You're thinking of a Vidal. You're thinking of a De Jong. And then depending on who you want to put as an attacking player, you also would have as a wingback Jordi Alba on one side, preferably Dembele when he comes back. But Ansu Fati, I'm a little concerned that that's too much of a responsibility for him. At this point, not that he needs to be a great defender, but he does need to be cognizant of the defensive responsibilities, as well as Messi and Griezmann up top. So tell me what you guys think. I'm just curious thinking it through, because even though Quique went back to a 4-4-2, I believe his idea is to train these players up to be responsible in that formation in the future. We'll find out. Talk to everyone soon.